Okay, I'm going to definitely under-deliver on that. Thank you
Look,
very much.
I mean, you're like Einstein for meetings.
I'm trying to be. I'm trying to be.
Give us
Thanks
some
for having.
context on you. Give us some context on meeting.
Yeah, so basically, Meet-Ting, it's a free AI assistant for email scheduling, and it's built for that very human, very messy, very fluid reality of how meetings actually get booked. So if you think about booking a meeting, it always happens via email. It very rarely happens on time or as planned. And tools of the past, you would click on a link, you would confirm a time, put a little box in someone's diary, and just hope that that box stays there. But as we all know, we kind of wake up, we feel how we feel, our schedules change, our priorities change, and ultimately that box starts to move around. So the idea is pretty simple. You just CC an AI into a conversation. It's connected to your calendar. It reads the conversation thread. It knows your preferences, and it just adapts in real time and puts all of that admin on autopilot so the meeting actually happens.
Where did the where did the inspiration for this come from? Is it a personal problem? Is it like you looked at the world and was like, right, I'm going to solve the email problem? Sorry, I'm going to solve the invite problem.
So yeah, I think we're going to try and solve it. I think there's a healthy respect for all the people who've tried to solve this incredible problem in the past. And we spoke to a lot of founders who built amazing products. So it's definitely a noble cause and definitely something that we want to try. But the kind of magic moment of where I came up with the idea or the inception for the idea, just honestly, waking up every morning, I would get back from a run, I would look at my email inbox, and I would have four or three emails of people just doing the same thing, right? They've woken up, they've looked at their calendar, something's on fire, they want to reschedule. And I just thought to myself, okay, I've just spent half an hour replanning my day. And I'm also, by the way, doing it to other people. So how much time collectively is lost as we start doing this big rescheduling circus? How
Have
much for
you
me,
have you been
my
tracking the
team?
time that people save?
Yeah, so actually in our analytics dashboard, so if you come into the product, we want everything to happen in email, in the inbox. What one of the big product philosophies is people don't want another platform to manage on top of their inbox. So for us, everything happens in email and it's just that simple CC function. But there are some things on a platform that you can take a look at, like eventually billing, but also insights. And for every meeting booked, we show the calculation of time saved by Ting kind of cutting that admin and back and forth in half.
That's really cool. When it came down to, we just had Canva on, they were talking about brand. Why is the little alien the meeting icon?
It's to be honest, like so it's kind of part of the bigger story. So I'm obviously somebody who's had a lot of ideas in the past, and I've always worked for big companies, and I've never really had the courage to go alone. And I just kind of had this idea, and it was one of those ideas that I just couldn't shake. And I think I shared with you, I've been listening to a lot of Rick Rubin at the time, and Rick Rubin talks a lot about kind of listening to those signals from within. And I just couldn't shake the idea, and I just kept on taking the idea further. So if we built this product, what would it be called? And then the name Meeting kind of came to life. Then I started to share the idea with partners and collaborators, and a designer called Guy kind of took the inspiration, took the name. I kind of really like the fact that meetings connect people, and we just had this like line that's always kind of fundamental to the product. And that line just happened to be a face, and that face just happened to be a mascot, and then Ting just came into existence. You kind of never really know what Ting is thinking. Sometimes it looks diabolical, sometimes it looks chill, but we're going to have a lot of fun with the branding and the character of Ting in the future.
Tell me about the early days, right? Let's go all the way back to the beginning of your career and sort of bring it forward to where we are today. You've been at Facebook, you've done TikTok, you've worked with Snapchat. Like how did all of that come together? Like were you always a thoroughbred creative and then have transitioned into this role as I'm going to go build a tech company, or is it you're still a creative at heart and this is the vehicle you're doing it in now?
I think so. So basically, of course, I'm going to say this. I feel like the moment that I entered the workforce, when I was first looking for a job, it was very similar to the kind of energy I'm feeling right now. People were getting very excited about social media. So this was in kind of 2007, 2008, and obviously wasn't as mainstream as it is right now, but people were talking about it. Brands were interested in exploring how can this communication tool kind of deepen customer relationships or provide a new communication channel. And I was working in tech PR, so my clients were like Intel, Yahoo, even LinkedIn back then. And I just, like I have been doing with I just feel like I'm really interested in this. I'm just going to absorb as much as I can. I'm going to listen. I'm going to just follow all the best people and just become an expert. And this was the very start of my career. And I think it was a really good choice because the more I learned and the more that social media became such like a mainstream conversation, the more I kind of brought people towards me to ask me for my advice and for my feedback. And that really paid off with my first kind of social media job. So Adidas or Adidas, depending on where you are in the world. Obviously a brand that really values innovative marketing and connecting with youths. So they wanted to set up their first social team. So I joined and kind of we didn't really know what we were doing at the time. We just knew this was a fantastic opportunity. We knew people were spending time there, and we knew there was an opportunity to connect Adidas with customers in new ways. And then just, my career kind of rode the wave of social media. I went from Adidas in the UK to leading social media for the football category, which is Adidas's biggest vertical. Then I led it across brand, and then finally moved from Germany to New York, where I was leading global social for obviously our own channels. But again, this was 2017. Also, all the channels of the artists, influencers, and athletes that Adidas represents. So, how phenomenal ride, and I kind of went from leading social across UK and EMEA, kind of a decentralized org, to globally, and then by the end, running the center of excellence across ByteDance. So, how do you take the playbook, the strategies, the systems from what we did with TikTok internationally, and then apply it to all of the other big bets that were coming out of the ByteDance HQ at the time?
It sounds like the most insane time over a period of 15, like 10, 15, 10 years, almost 10 years.
So
No, longer than
chronically
10 years.
online. Yeah, 70, yeah, chronically online. Obviously, definitely speed bumps along the way, but I think I look back at my time at ByteDance, probably 2.5 years, but the most productive 2.5 years of my life working with some of the most incredible people and then just seeing where the product is now and also all the peripheral products as well. So TikTok Live, TikTok Shopping, CatCut, at the time, these were products that were being incubated in different markets across the world. And now they're, number one or number two in the App Store.
Talk to me about what's difficult for Ting right now. Obviously, the email problem or the invite problem is incredibly difficult as we've all seen. I go back and forth with you trying to build these, trying to get you on the show, trying to do other things, etc. But is that the hardest problem you have to solve, or is there something larger here?
I think so. I'm always been around big tech. Always, worked on tech development and features, gaming or social products. Some non-technical. So there's challenges that I think I underestimated and appreciated, and now I have an incredible CTO who is educating me every day. But if I was to try and bucket the areas that I think are technically challenging for us. I think number one, the complexity of inbox setup. So obviously we're kind of doing right now a closed beta with Gmail and Google, but eventually Outlook is obviously a huge inbox. Then you have Yahoo, still a lot of people using Hotmail, and then there's still lots of other kind of more niche inbox setups. We also know that meetings get talked about in so many different places. It could be LinkedIn DM, it could be WhatsApp, it could be SMS. So how do you connect these worlds in a straightforward way? Because ultimately, even when you're talking about a meeting on WhatsApp, the meeting booking goes back to the calendar, it goes back to email. So we think there's a way to kind of shorten the gap
Are you
between the two.
finding that your users have multiple emails across different platforms? So like you have a
100%.
Microsoft email, a Google email, an iCloud email, a Yahoo email, and so they have multiple emails, but they only use one calendar.
Honestly, it really varies. So I think
Oh,
one of the
okay.
other kind of big, yeah, one of the other really interesting product challenges is you go into. So one of the parts of the development journey was obviously doing as many customer calls or discovery calls as possible, and we went in with a very clear hypothesis, kind of validated with conversations on our ICP. And actually, the more that we get into this, the more that the productivity seekers, like lovers, they really want to talk to us. So they are people who are professionals, but actually just personally, they crave technology that helps make them more productive or streamline their work. So it's a really interesting demographic that I underplayed. But for some of the other ones are a bit more straightforward. So you think about freelancers or
Hmm.
consultants, they are, as a freelancer, they'll have multiple clients. And some clients operate on Outlook, some clients operate on Gmail. So they'll have multiple calendars and multiple inboxes based on, their different business arrangements. And then also as well, obviously your personal dimension is as important as your work dimension. So you may be busy picking up the kids on Friday morning, and that needs to reflect in your professional calendar so it doesn't get booked over. So whether it's personal or professional, whether it's the nature of your work, there's a lot of different calendars and setups that we need to optimize towards and just find like a really elegant solution that helps Ting do the job it needs to do.
Why do you focus on the human element so much?
I just think meetings are inherently human, right? So obviously for me, it was that moment of just every day I'm waking up and I'm rescheduling and the rescheduling comes back to like my energy, right? It's like ultimately, I don't think people want your time, right? Like for this podcast, you don't want half an hour of Dan. You want half an hour of Dan at his peak energy because that's where conversations are most magical. That's where momentum and decisions get made. So I think ultimately what we're trying to get towards is if AI can start to understand context, it can understand your patterns and your rhythms, it can plan your time better, not just by minutes available, but also by when you might be in the best frame of mind or most mentally available to have a quality conversation. And then ultimately, both sides win, right? We get a great podcast, we have a great conversation. Hopefully, your viewers enjoy it. And we walk away saying that was a half an hour well spent.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that I've always struggled with, and I think everyone does, right, is the fact that look, meetings are inherently tiring, especially when you do like a triple back to back, or in my case, it's like a I don't even know what it is to the nth degree. So 10 in this case today.
Or a 5 hour live stream. Yeah, or a
Yeah, or a
5 hour
5 hour
live
live
stream.
stream, right? And it's just this constant back to back to back to back with huge amounts of energy. And I think the when I'm booking meetings in, I don't know about you, but I quite literally am just incredibly direct now. It's very much like I'm talking in my tone of voice rather than the professional tone of voice, so to speak. And
100%.
for me, that works great. But I assume you're sitting inside one of these large enterprises, and it's like, no, we don't want that. Like, actually, we need you to be, you need to talk from the script, and you need to have a certain way of talking to individuals. And so, I guess meeting solves that problem.
It's really interesting. So I had this moment recently where I saw an incredible product demo of a promising startup, and as a startup founder looking for technology to get an advantage, I reached out and I was like, "Look, your product looks incredible. Would love to demo." And I just got a Calendly link back, right? And it just felt so transactional. But I get it, it's super efficient, right? Because, that's exactly what you want. But at the same time, as a human connecting with another human, it felt just a bit deflating and disappointing. So actually, I think what is really interesting about Ting is Ting like brings this very warm energy. It kind of feels very convenient. It's very guest forward. So ultimately, you can also use AI as something that adds to your brand. And also, if you're too tired mentally or you're too busy because you have loads of demos to do, it can kind of add that human layer between you and the guest. And then when you do have that call and when you're at your peak energy, obviously you have an incredible conversation and hopefully close the deal.
What I'd love to ask is the idea of a calendar is very visual. And I've used
Yeah.
Ting in the past, obviously, right? Because you got to try and use the products before we get you guys on the show. And Ting likes to write it out for you. So it's like
Yeah.
this date, this time, would you like to book in this slot? And it does a great job of like, if you say yes, it goes, right, I'll book that first one as an
Yeah.
example. What do you think there's a visual element to booking that actually you haven't considered yet? Or am I just preempting a new feature?
Oh, no, I think you're preempting a new feature. I think we need to test it. So there's a few different options out there that I've seen that work really well. So kind of one is like a visualization and you can click on it and it kind of allows you to select that time, or you can kind of do these quick replies. So I think right now we're just, especially for a product, we're only 4 to 5 weeks old. This text-based sharing is seemed to be working, but I think we'll find over time there's more delightful and eloquent ways to help people to select time. Um, but the big opportunity, and if I can plug one thing, is so obviously Ting is great for the user, but if both users use Ting, that's where the magic of AI happens. So if we're trying to book a meeting and we both use Ting, it's already got access to both of our calendars. It already knows both of our preferences. It's learned our behaviors, and it will make a reasonable calculation of when the best time for us to meet and just put it on the diary. So again, I think right
how
now we're
how does it
sort of
know that, right? Because obviously like I want my calendar organized in a certain way. So I have sections as an example in the afternoon where I take most of my meetings, and the bulk of the morning is kept free. But I don't have a setting to basically said no meetings on at this time. So does Ting understand in my calendar based on previous days that that is where they should put the meeting in, or we should put the meeting
Yeah,
in?
and just for the viewers, there's like a now and a next. So right now, like I said, we want everything to happen in the email inbox, but there is some need for an app or a platform. So you kind of authorize in for a web app, connect your Google Calendar, and then we ask for some very basic preferences. So, when do you like to have meetings? Kind of what is your default duration of meetings? Like how many max per day on top of your routine, default platform like Google or Zoom. So it kind of has a general understanding of how to plan your day, and obviously it has your availability based on your calendar. So that it kind of uses that to help negotiate. But in the future, what's really exciting is Think Memories. So every time that, maybe it detects that we're meeting every Wednesday, and it will suggest to put that as recurring, or maybe it notices that every Friday afternoon I cancel my meetings because I realize at the end of the day, Friday, I'm just depleted. So yeah, there's a bit of just preset that the user has to provide, but then ultimately, this is where the power of AI comes in and the differentiator between the tools of the past and the tools of today, which is learning preferences and adapting to the user for the first time.
Dude, I love it. It's such an interesting product because it solves this really, really niche use case that a lot of people have a problem with. What's the moat here? Like when you explain it to investors or you're pitching it to investors for raising funds, as I'm sure you will in the future, how how do you find the moat for, well, Google could just build this?
So there's some stuff I won't say because it's the stuff that got the check signed, but and
We'll
there's
get you
stuff
back
that
on post check.
yeah, yeah. Well, just before I answer that question, one of my funniest stories, obviously building Ting. Going into calendaring, going into scheduling software, you need to go and do some research. So I listened to every podcast on every major competitor, and it's just a gold mine of GTM and like lessons learned. So anyone who's building, like go on to podcast, search your competitors, listen to execs talks about the product because you will pick up a lot that I think can be helpful. But to answer your question, on that question, the one I always give back is like Google Calendar is amazing, right? But there's still a Calendly. And I think what Calendly does, which is different to Google Calendar, is it goes really, really vertical into the customer problems, right? So Google Calendar is great as a universal scheduling tool for like multi-purpose. But if you were to ask a recruiter, a sales agent, or a freelancer what's their preferred tool, the additional features that tools like that are providing give outsized value and make it, the moat or make it different. That's the same for us. We've identified, 5 sets of customers that we're going to super serve. You'll always have this incredible free product that will learn with you and it will take most of your scheduling pain away. But there's some sets of users just want more, and AI can offer them more. And that's where we start to kind of build moats and still to build like real vertical traction.
I got you. Talk to me about GTM. Obviously, a product like this can, you know, absolutely rip like wildfire through an email inbox. Outside of that, how do you get people involved?
I think so. It's really so. What you've said is really true. So there's a danger. So we actively went into closed beta because with a product like this, it's email based, and every time you use it, you expose it to somebody else, right? So it has this really strong viral distribution. But the point that you want to allow that to really go is only when the product feels truly delightful and reliable. And that's not easy, right? So the human nuance of how we communicate, the technical setup, there's a lot of time that you need to just, test the product and learn before you kind of unleash viral growth. And actually, there's a few other products just like ours that are in closed beta or maybe a bit more ahead. And the word of mouth is quite potent. So people will say, "Oh yeah, it's good, but it gets my name wrong. Oh yeah, it's good, but it gets the time zone wrong." And that for me is unacceptable because it's not delivering on the promise of incredible guest experience or incredible user experience. So right now, closed beta, very, very focused on just proving out the model, getting traction with our ICPs and listening to what features will make it truly delightful. But then you're right, once we come out of closed beta, one big source of distribution will be the product itself. And then based on our ICPs, all the different kind of new media opportunities are reaching them, whether they're newsletters, communities, but like really vertically approaching our customer and finding the places that they live online and working with partners, creators, and collaborators to reach them.
How do you think creators play into this? Like I've been thinking about it. Obviously, I think you've done some paid ads with Stephen Bartlett, and I thought that that was like the best because it came so naturally. But outside of that, when you think about how creators are going to use the product, do you think quite deeply around like how can we generate interesting content through the features of Ting?
Yeah, I think about that all the time. So the Stephen Bartlett one is really interesting. I was on holiday in Greece, and our legal advisor just sent me a link and was like, "Is he talking about Ting?" And it was like 2 hours 39 into whatever it was into the podcast, and I watched it and I was like, "I think he is." And I kind of checked with people around him. I was like, "I think he's talking about Ting. He's talking about Ting." He's like, "Yeah." And then we were like, okay, so we hadn't done any paid marketing, and we were like, let's just see like a small, test, £500. Let's just see kind of what this like, how I'm working with a creator like him, what kind of traction that generates. And it was self-fulfilling prophecy, right? He's so incredible, so well known, and the ad was incredibly phenomenal. So I don't think we learned too much other than he's very well known and obviously very desirable. But the most interesting thing that's happening with creators right now is it's less about growth. And I say this to the creators as I talk to them. It's more about like I'm so fascinated to tell them my story of Ting and then watch how they tell our story. Because the
Hmm.
way they frame it or the way that the thing that they zoom into that they think is most valuable, sometimes it's like a new lesson for us, or sometimes they'll say, hey, look, like the thing that I love about Ting was it was compassionate. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, okay, I've never even thought
They call
about
Ting
compassion.
compassionate.
Yeah, they call it because it's
Hmm.
just kind of this warm experience that it's always positive, it's always very additive. It's even when you reschedule, there was an incident where somebody had to reschedule because they had an incident at home, and just Ting comes with the, hope everything's okay. That's absolutely no problem. I'm going to reschedule this right away. So you kind of hear the ways that creators talk about your brand, and as a new brand that's 6 weeks old, it kind of gives you ideas of, okay, well, maybe the brand is more like this. So it's like R&D for storytelling, talking to creators right now and just kind of seeing how they would tell our story.
I love that R&D for storytelling because you can
Yeah,
sort of you can figure out what is the feedback from the audience because they're sort of tapped into that ecosystem of like they know
100%.
their ICP deeply well. But then if they start mentioning things to you like, oh, they really like our audience talks about it this way, you can go, right, we'll just build a feature for that.
Yeah, 100%. Because exactly right. They know they're so drilled into A, how the internet works or how the social algorithm works, or how their customers and followers talk about products. So it's honestly, it's less right now about growth because we have a wait list. It really is creative people telling us what they think is special about Ting and also like what is constructively that we can improve. So last night I got an email from a creator and he sent me 5 different things that he thought we could do better and sent it straight to the team and we're working on it. So we're just at this really kind of rich moment right now where all the feedback, within reason hits the backlog.
I love it. Why was co-created the right play for you at this point in time?
So it's kind of back to the kind of lore and the origin of things. So I had this idea, couldn't shake it, started to like build this idea of a brand and a product in my mind, did a lot of research on competitors, and I really felt this was something compelling, but I was non-technical, and I really needed to reach out and speak to developers or speak to somebody who had that special skill that could either validate the idea or tell me it's been done before or it's just
Mhm.
it's impossible. And I reached out to Ol from Co-Creator, and I've shared his DM before. I just said, hey, and we know each other from TikTok, and he was at Social Chain, and I trust him, and he's got a great network. And I said, look, I've got this idea, can't shake it. It sounds really simple, but I imagine it's really complex. How do you just CC an AI into a meeting booking and let it take over? And he was like, I love that idea. There's a couple of people you should talk to. Let me connect you. But by the way, come back to me after you've spoken to these people. I'd love to hear where it goes. So I spoke to a couple of developers that are a bit more familiar with the AI development space. Both of them kind of almost said exactly the same thing with it's not technically impossible, which tends to be a big thumbs up that let's do it. And also they said, look, we also would use this, like, as agency owners. And I went back to Ol and I said, look, I got a thumbs up from both the developers. I think I'm gonna chase after this. And Ol said, look, I love the idea, and obviously, I love having worked with you in the past, and I think you can do this. Can like, we create a business relationship about this? I'd love to fund the prototyping, and for me, that was like a no regret decision. I had this champion, this supporter, I had financial backing. It kind of forced some structure and network around it, and it honestly just went from there. So we built the prototype together. We collaborated on the story. We wrote a pitch doc. We started reaching out to angels, and we started to get positive feedback, and then VCs started coming our way. So I know there's a big debate of, should you bootstrap or should you seek venture support? For me, I felt the structure, the network, and also like the morale of people in it with me was really important, and it helped push me over the edge to make Ting a reality.
I like it. It makes a lot of sense. You needed that. You needed the distribution. You needed the capital, but you also needed the technical talent. And sort of co-created was a vehicle to allow you to sort of receive all of it in one place,
And
right?
yeah, and I don't know if it's just for me, but also just the validation, right? So it's very leaving a salary job, in a good position to go and break it out alone. And I just bought a house, so with a mortgage, it's a big decision, and obviously your family and your loved ones support you, but to have other people in it with you, like I've got this incredible screenshot when we first wrote the pitch deck. The reason I screenshot it is the co-created team, all positive, we love it. Like, and just having that support group is as important as the financial transaction in my mind.
Do you enjoy working with a co-created team? I know there's a couple of within the studio. There is a lot of startups that are working on different products
Oh
and
yeah, it's
technologies. Do
incredible.
you end up riffing with each other? Is that the type of relationship it is there compared to
Yeah,
other VC firms where it's actually like, look, you're just a portco company. We're going to let you crack on. Here's the capital. Use us when you need value.
I think what the team has done a really good job of is it doesn't feel like a portco, right? It doesn't feel like we're a portfolio company. It feels like we're one. It sounds a bit cliche, but we're just in this like community, and we've all got very specific objectives and goals, and we're all doing very different things. But actually, when you combine us, whether it's support with product design, whether it's support with content marketing, whether it's support with influencer and creator, actually, the it becomes quite special. So there's a lot of WhatsApp groups, a lot of conversation. In fact, I said to Ol last night, we were talking about having a more tech product focused WhatsApp group. And I said, I'm a bit WhatsApp fatigued, but I can't think of anything better. So maybe that's a good idea.
Oh, it's brilliant. We've got to get him on the show at some
Yeah,
point. I'm
you should. Yeah,
like down the
he'll
line,
be
definitely. He's done a lot of
he'll
shows.
be
It's just finding the right angle.
he'll be watching. So yeah,
Definitely.
yeah,
Look, before we
100%.
let you go, I've got to ask, can you give us some insight into what's next for Ting? Is it a new feature that you're working on, or is it just really just hammering home and closing out this beta?
I think it's the big idea that I mentioned. So we fundamentally believe people don't want your time, they want your energy. So if
Mm.
we could build a more emotionally intelligent scheduling tool, I think it like reframes productivity not through the lens of just time and minutes or blocks in people's calendars, but when is the best time to bring these people together for that momentum or that deal or for that new idea to happen. So that's what we're really bullish on. But obviously we need to get through closed beta. We've got some incredible features and ideas that I haven't shared, but yeah, this bigger vision of connecting people at the right moment at the right time using AI.
Look, I've got one feature request. If you can build it down the
Oh
line,
yeah, hit
brilliant.
me,
Yeah.
hit me. They're all
Can
welcome.
I get Ting in WhatsApp? Because I like all of my meetings, I end up like throwing in my Calendly link or throwing in my Notion link, and really, I just want I want Ting to take over.
If I can give you one spoiler, actively being worked on. And in fact, the CTO is hacking something together right now. It's a bit of a show and tell prototype. Yeah.
Brilliant. Dan, this has been an absolute pleasure. I'm looking forward
Thank
to
you very
seeing where
much for
this
having me.
goes. We'll see you
Yeah,
soon.
appreciate you. Thanks, everyone.